Pennsylvania streets tell a quiet story of steel mills long silent, of rail lines rusting the cold, of towns shrinking as jobs and young families vanish. Once a titan of American industry, the state has become a symbol of economic erosion, where high taxes, decaying infrastructure, and stagnant services now drive tens of thousands to pack up and leave each year.
Don't get fooled by the label. Subscribe now to uncover what's really behind your favorite brands, and get the truth big food doesn't want you to see.
In places like Johnstown and Erie, the middle class is no longer just struggling. It's evaporating. The decline isn't loud or sudden, but it's relentless. What used to be a home base for generations is increasingly seen as a financial and emotional burden. And Pennsylvania isn't alone. Across the country, a record-breaking migration is underway, with millions abandoning 10 specific states that were once considered desirable places to live. From the flood-prone bayous of Louisiana to the overpriced condos of California, Americans are fleeing housing crises, climate threats, and the crushing weight of unsustainable policies. This isn't about chasing a dream. It's about escaping a nightmare. Beneath the statistics lies a more troubling truth. These departures reflect growing anxiety about safety, affordability, and the long-term viability of places people once proudly called home. There's a seismic shift happening right now in the United States, and it's not just about politics, elections, or inflation. It's about where Americans live, or more accurately, where they don't want to live anymore. In 2025, more Americans are packing up and leaving their home states than ever before. We're not talking about retirees seeking sunshine, or families moving to be closer to grandma. No, this is a full-blown exodus from 10 specific states, and the reasons are as raw and real as they come. Economic decay, out-of-control housing costs, crushing taxes, unsafe streets, collapsing infrastructure, environmental threats, and a growing feeling that things just aren't working anymore. This isn't about convenience. It's about survival. And these are the 10 states Americans are abandoning faster than ever before. Let's start with Pennsylvania, once a symbol of American industry. Today, it's a cautionary tale of economic decline. The steel and coal sectors that built this state's backbone collapsed. What's left behind are hollowed-out towns, sky-high taxes, and infrastructure that's falling apart. Public services are stagnant. Roads are crumbling. Entire communities look frozen in time. Only now, fewer people are around to care. The state is bleeding out its younger and middle-class residents who simply don't see a future anymore. They're trading old memories for new opportunities in states that haven't been stuck in neutral for decades. Then there's Washington. High-tech economy? Sure. Amazon, Microsoft, innovation, startups. It sounds impressive. But all that prosperity comes at a steep price. Washington is now drowning in a cost of living crisis that's gutting the middle class. Home prices are out of reach. Rent is skyrocketing. Grocery bills are absurd. And while tech workers cash their inflated checks, everyone else is left choking on rising prices and shrinking wages. Families are fleeing because Washington has become a place where you either thrive or you can't breathe. Massachusetts is no different. Home to elite institutions like Harvard and MIT. It should be a beacon of progress, but instead, it's becoming an enclave for the ultra-wealthy. The housing market? An absolute nightmare. Property taxes? Brutal. Young professionals? Leaving. Older residents? Can't afford to stay. Even the neighborhoods filled with charm and history are out of reach unless you got Wall Street-level money. Massachusetts has priced out the very people who built it, and now it's paying the price in population decline. And then there's Louisiana. This one hits hard. The climate isn't just changing, it's devastating. Hurricanes, floods, rising sea levels. People aren't just leaving because they want to. They're being forced out. In just 2 years, over 30,000 people left Louisiana, many because their homes were literally underwater. And every time a new storm hits, it's not just property at risk. It's the last bit of hope that maybe, just maybe, things will get better. The infrastructure can't keep up. The economic burden is too heavy. And the message is clear. Stay and risk losing everything. New Jersey and Illinois are in a tax death spiral. Property taxes? Among the highest in the nation. Income taxes? crushing, and people have had enough, especially retirees and middle-income families. They're heading to Florida, Indiana, and Texas in droves. In 2024 alone, over 60,000 people ditched Illinois. Why? Because the state's debt is out of control, the business environment is hostile, and the government can't seem to stop digging the hole deeper. In New Jersey, it's the same story. High taxes, crumbling trust, and a growing list of reasons to go. Now, let's talk about California. The Golden State? Try the unaffordable state. In just 3 years, over 340,000 people said goodbye. Why? Because California has become a nightmare for middle-income families. Restrictive land policies keep housing scarce. Taxes are insane. Everyday expenses are out of control. And if you're trying to run a business, good luck surviving the red tape and overhead. People aren't just leaving because it's hard. They're leaving because California has punished them for trying to live the American dream. Hawaii's just as heartbreaking, one of the most beautiful places in the world. And yet, even the locals can't afford to stay. The cost of living is so high that native Hawaiians are being pushed out of their own homeland. Paradise has turned into a financial trap. The beaches are still there. The sunsets haven't changed. But for too many families, the dream of staying on the islands is no longer realistic. They're leaving not because they want to, but because they have no choice. Then there's Michigan. Detroit used to represent the strength of American manufacturing. Today, it's a symbol of decline. For 7 decades, the state has been shedding population. The auto industry has shrunk. Winters are brutal. Economic opportunity is shaky. And for younger people looking for growth and upward mobility, Michigan just doesn't make the cut anymore. The jobs aren't stable. The economy isn't diversifying fast enough. And the future looks more uncertain by the year. New York, once the beating heart of America. Now, the burden is unbearable. The cost of living is astronomical. Crime has rattled people's sense of security. Taxes are suffocating. And for all the culture and energy New York offers, more and more residents are saying, it's just not worth it anymore. The glamour has worn off. The grind is relentless. And there are far too many other places where life doesn't come with that kind of price tag. This migration wave isn't just about economics. It's emotional. Americans are leaving because they're exhausted, tired of broken promises, tired of feeling unsafe, tired of seeing their paychecks disappear into property taxes, overpriced housing and insurance premiums, tired of wondering if things will ever get better. The middle class, the engine of the country, is under siege. The dream of home ownership, a decent job, a safe neighborhood, and some financial stability, it's slipping away in these states. People are leaving not just to chase opportunity, but to escape decline. They're choosing states like Texas, Utah, Florida, not just for the weather, but for hope, for possibility, for a fresh start. What's driving this massive shift? Look closely, and the patterns are clear. In states like Pennsylvania, Illinois, and Michigan, deindustrialization hollowed out entire economies. Factories shut down. Towns faded. Infrastructure was neglected. Meanwhile, debt mounted and policy failure became the norm. In California, Massachusetts, and New York, housing costs and tax burdens are suffocating. The very people who make those places run, teachers, nurses, truck drivers, small business owners, they can't afford to live there anymore. Their departure isn't just a statistic. It's a cry for help. In Louisiana, climate change is no longer some distant threat. It's immediate. It's destroying homes, livelihoods, and entire communities. And the government hasn't kept up. The infrastructure is crumbling. The relief efforts are too little, too late. So people are leaving, not out of choice, but because staying might mean losing everything. And all across these states, a deeper problem is setting in, a total lack of faith that anyone in charge has a plan to fix it. These aren't just economic problems. They're failures of vision, failures of leadership. And the people have had enough. Internal migration is now one of the clearest indicators of how Americans feel about the direction of their states. And the message? Loud and clear. It's not working. This isn't about red states or blue states. It's about failing states. And the middle class, the backbone of the country, is voting with its feet. If you're watching this from a state that's losing people fast, ask yourself, why are they leaving? And if you're in one of the states gaining people, ask yourself, how long before these same problems catch up to you? The American map is changing, not because of political boundaries, but because of migration. Because millions of Americans are making the hardest choice they've ever made, to leave home behind in search of a better life somewhere else. That says more about the State of the Union than any poll, any speech, or any campaign ad ever could. Like this video if it hit home for you. Drop a comment. Are you one of the millions who've moved? Are you thinking about it? What's driving your decision? And make sure to share this with someone who's wondering if they're the only one who feels this way. You're not. Subscribe for more hard truths and real talk. Because America deserves a voice that doesn't sugarcoat the facts. Let's go deeper. Because this isn't just about statistics or headlines. This is about real people. About the nurse in Chicago who works overtime every week and still can't afford her property taxes. About the young couple in Seattle forced to choose between paying rent or starting a family. About the lifelong New Yorker who walks past boarded-up businesses and wonders when the city stopped feeling like home. When we talk about mass migration, we're talking about millions of Americans who are sick of being punished for staying. These are people who put down roots, paid their dues, raised their kids, and now they're walking away. Not because they want to, because they have to. Let's go back to Illinois. It's not just the taxes. It's the sense of decline that hits you every time you drive through what used to be vibrant towns. Schools are underfunded. Crime is rising. Businesses are closing. And the state government? It's drowning in debt and pushing the costs onto families already hanging by a thread. Illinois isn't losing its population by accident. It's driving them away through failure year after year. New Jersey is just as bad. It's one of the wealthiest states on paper. But try telling that to someone paying $15,000 a year in property taxes. Try explaining to a small business owner why regulatory hurdles keep piling up while basic services keep declining. And while the wealthy carve out comfort in their gated neighborhoods, everyone else is squeezed out. It's not hard to understand why people are headed to places like North Carolina and Tennessee, places where their income goes further and their stress level goes down. Let's not sugarcoat what's happening in California either. It's no longer just the dreamers heading west. It's the dreamers leaving the West. California's high taxes, high regulations, and sky-high housing costs have created an affordability nightmare. Public policies meant to protect the environment have morphed into bureaucratic walls that block housing development, crush businesses, and keep prices rising. And for the middle class, it's a losing battle. People are driving across state lines with everything they own because they can't afford to stay in the place they've always called home. And what about Hawaii, the state that sells a postcard lifestyle to the world, while its own residents get priced out of paradise? The tourism economy booms while the locals struggle. The cost of groceries, gas, utilities, it's all through the roof. And when a native Hawaiian decides to leave the islands, that's not just an economic decision. That's emotional devastation. That's culture bleeding out. That's a community being broken up. Not because of some natural disaster, but because of policy failure and economic imbalance. Let's pause for a second and talk about what this really means for the country. Because this mass movement, it's changing everything. It's shifting political power, reshaping economies, redefining culture. Texas, Florida, Arizona, the Carolinas, they're gaining people, gaining influence, gaining new momentum. And the states losing population, they're losing more than just people. They're losing relevance, losing tax bases, losing a grip on the future. We're watching the country rewire itself in real time, and it's all happening state by state, choice by choice, U-Haul by U-Haul. In Michigan, the story has been written in slow motion. Since the 1950s, Detroit has gone from a motor city to a cautionary tale. Manufacturing collapsed. Jobs disappeared. The tax base crumbled. Crime surged. And while there have been pockets of revival, the broader state has never fully recovered. Harsh winters, stagnant wages, and a lack of economic diversity keep Michigan on a losing side of the migration wave. And now, the question is whether the decline has become permanent, or if there's still time to reverse course. The emotional toll of all this is massive. Leaving your home state isn't easy. For a lot of people, it's the most painful decision of their lives. But staying? That's become unbearable. In Louisiana, the choice is even more brutal. Climate change isn't theory there. It's a lived experience. Families bore up their homes every hurricane season. Floodwaters destroy what they rebuilt just a few years earlier. Insurance premiums go up. Rebuilding costs mount. Infrastructure doesn't hold. And eventually, the calculation changes. People stop asking how we rebuild and start asking where we go. That's the raw truth. People are running out of options. And it's not just about natural disasters. It's about the political and economic disasters that follow. When a government can't protect its citizens, can't provide safe roads, reliable electricity, clean water, or reasonable housing, that's not just mismanagement. That's abandonment. And Americans are responding in the only way they can. They're leaving. This migration wave is also brutally unequal. The rich, they stay. They have the money to insulate themselves from the chaos. Private schools, gated communities, tax loopholes, beachfront property that's insured 6 ways to Sunday. But the middle class, they're the ones bearing the weight. They're the ones being taxed, priced, and pushed out of their own neighborhoods. And the working poor, they don't have the resources to leave, even if they want to. So we're left with states that are bifurcating into 2 Americas. One where the wealthy hunker down behind gates and perks, and another where everyone else is just trying to get out before it's too late. This story isn't about failure on one level. It's systemic. Economic policies that haven't kept pace with reality. Housing markets warped by red tape and speculation. Climate inaction that's now costing lives. And state governments that are either too bloated or too broken to respond. There's a reason why Americans are voting with their feet. And their message? Loud and unmistakable. We don't feel safe here. We can't afford this anymore. We're tired of waiting for things to get better. That's what's behind the 340,000 people who left California, the 60,000 who left Illinois, the tens of thousands fleeing Louisiana, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Hawaii, and beyond. It's not a fluke. It's not a trend. It's a transformation, and it should be a wake-up call. Because if these states don't course correct, if they don't get serious about affordability, about infrastructure, about safety and basic governance, they're going to keep shrinking, economically, culturally, politically, and the states gaining people, they'd better be ready. Because population growth isn't just a number. It's a challenge. It means more pressure on housing, roads, water systems, schools. It means balancing opportunity with preparation. This isn't just about where people are going. It's about why they're going and what the rest of the country is going to do about it. This moment is a mirror. It reflects what happens when the middle class is squeezed to the breaking point, when the systems that were supposed to lift people up start dragging them down, when staying in the place you love becomes a risk you just can't take anymore. And as more Americans hit the road, driven by desperation, anxiety, and the fading promise of the American dream, the future of these 10 states hangs in the balance. Are they going to listen? Are they going to change? Or are they going to keep doubling down on the very policies that drove people away in the first place? Let's finish this right, with the blunt truth no one in power seems willing to say. America's internal migration crisis, it's not just a symptom. It's a screaming alarm. It's the middle class flashing red. It's working families yelling from the rooftops. We've had enough. And what's truly infuriating is how predictable all of this is. Politicians love to act surprised when the numbers come in. When the census shows people fleeing New York. When Illinois loses another congressional seat. When moving trucks clog the highways out of California. But let's be honest, they saw it coming. They just didn't care. Or worse, they thought people wouldn't leave. That we'd all just sit there and take it. Take the taxes, take the crime, take the inflation, take the crumbling schools and vanishing services. Because we love our hometown so much. But you know what's stronger than hometown pride? Putting food on the table. Keeping your kids safe. Being able to afford a home without selling your soul or mortgaging your future. You don't abandon your roots easily. It's a gut-wrenching choice. But people are doing it. in massive numbers, not because they hate where they're from, but because their states stopped loving them back. And what do they get in return for leaving? Well, that's the next phase of the story. The people fleeing these 10 states aren't just disappearing. They're reshaping the places they go. States like Texas, Florida, Arizona, Tennessee, they're booming. And not just with retirees, with families, with workers, with people chasing affordability, freedom, and a fighting chance. That means the national balance of power is shifting. Political power, economic momentum, cultural capital, it's all moving. And that terrifies the old guard. The states losing population are also losing leverage. Fewer congressional seats, shrinking tax bases, smaller voices in Washington. That's the long-term price of failure. You don't just lose people, you lose power. And here's something else the elites won't tell you. They're not the ones leaving. Nope. They're still in their multi-million-dollar brownstones in Manhattan, still hosting fundraisers in San Francisco, still sipping wine in Boston, or jet-setting from L.A. to Maui. The collapse? The decay? That's for everyone else to deal with. But the good news is this. The people who are leaving, they're not giving up. They're building. They're starting over. In states that welcome them instead of punishing them. In places where housing is affordable, crime is under control, and taxes don't feel like extortion. They're planting new roots in communities that still believe in hard work, common sense, and freedom. And yes, those destination states, they've got challenges ahead. Growth is a blessing, but also a burden. Schools need expansion. Roads need repair. Housing needs to keep pace. But here's the difference. Those states see it coming. They're adapting. They're preparing. They're not asleep at the wheel while their people flee. Meanwhile, the 10 states we've talked about, they're still spinning excuses, still blaming external factors or national trends, instead of looking in the mirror, instead of admitting, we taxed too hard, we regulated too much, we ignored the signs. This is what happens when leadership is disconnected from reality, when bureaucrats and legacy politicians treat working Americans like ATMs, when governments forget their basic job, make life livable, safe, and affordable. That's not radical. That's the bare minimum. So here's the bottom line. This migration wave is not just about states. It's about values. People are choosing freedom over frustration, opportunity over decay, simplicity over bureaucracy. That's the real American story in 2025. And if these 10 states don't wake up, if they don't radically rethink how they govern, how they tax, how they build, how they serve their people, then this exodus, it's only just begun. Smash that like button if you felt the squeeze. Drop your story in the comments. Where did you leave and where did you go? Did life get better? Are you still deciding? And don't forget to subscribe, because this country's on the move, and we're going to follow every step of the shakeup.